So what's the difference between all these onions? I have here a white onion and a sweet onion, and these are going to be pretty similar in terms of taste, intensity, and sweetness. These are about the sweetest that you're going to get onions to be in their raw form, with a relatively low onion intensity. The red onion packs a huge onion punch, but it's still pretty sweet. These are nice raw, cut very thinly, but still hold up in soups, stews. I used them for my marinara sauce last week. The yellow onion is sort of the workhorse of the kitchen. I frequently buy 10-pound bags of these onions because I almost never have one go bad. That's what I have over here. Yellow onions. I want to buy a bunch of them. I always want to have them on hand. Workhorse of the kitchen. There are so many old wives' tales about how to not make yourself cry while you're crying onions. And I'm going to tell you that's just impossible to negate it completely. Some people say that you want to leave the root intact, and that's just ridiculous because as soon as you introduce oxygen to the rest of the onion, sulfur compounds, a compound called synthase, all of that mixes with the oxygen, produces gas that travels up towards your eyes. So standing right over onions is just inherently going to make you tear up. Another thing that people do is get a candle out and just light that. What I'm assuming is that the heat will make the gas dissipate or burn up somehow. Maybe the temperature change is supposed to do something to all of that gas that's coming off of the onion. But I've never had any luck with that at all. The only things I've ever had any luck with are keeping my knife very sharp and ski goggles. Now these work because they limit the air that's actually traveling to your eyes. See, that wraps around my eyes right there. If you're just wearing a regular pair of sunglasses, regular pair of reading glasses, eyeglasses, this is not going to work. So I'm going to put these on right now. Let's see how long I can last. Now, as far as I'm concerned, there are really 3 ways to peel an onion. I'll go from the simplest to the most time intensive, and they all have their merits. Method 1, take your very sharp knife, cut off one end, and cut off the other end. Center cut, and from there, it's just all about taking the one layer of paper off. And I'm not particularly concerned about wasting any of this because none of it's going to get wasted. It is all going in stock. Remember all these onions, these garlic skins? This method I'm only going to take half or one end off. This is a little bit more messy because I'm cutting through those roots, so I get all these root fibers all over, and then I don't really have a great grip on the rest of the onion. I can peel that down to the root. This third method you can do all with a paring knife. Since I have my chef's knife out here, I'm going to make my first cut with the chef's knife, and then the rest is all about peeling back this skin with the paring knife. And then you pretty much have your whole onion. You can take your paring knife and take this root off. It's still intact, it's still connected there on the bottom, but it just looks a little bit more clean. Little tip when you're done with your skins, flip your cutting board over. The cutting board on the other side doesn't have any skins on it. We're just going to ignore that little mishap. Another great tip too, if your cutting board's sliding around on you, wet kitchen towel, and it doesn't slide around. So let's talk about this method here. This is really the method that I would use if I was going to go for half moons. Now, you see the sort of veins that are coming this way across the onion. That is the grain of the onion. And if we cut across the grain of the onion, we're going to expose more sulfur compounds to oxygen, and we're going to get more gas. So you're going to get a bigger onion flavor, and you're also going to tear up a little bit more. as thinly as I can. And these are half moons. And when I get to this point here, it's a little bit more dangerous for me to keep cutting down. If I'm gripping over here, the chance for my knife to slip is a little bit more great. So I'm going to turn that 90 degrees and keep going. Look at those half moons. Those are beautiful, sweet and spicy. These would go great on a salad, great on a burger. This cut right here, this is great for the dice or the dice's younger cousin, the mince. The goal is to keep the root intact, and you can definitely shave this off with the paring knife or with the chef's knife like we did before. I'm just going to leave it like it is so you can easily visualize it. And if you'll notice how when I put my knife down, the belly sort of swoops up down here. When I'm coming down, okay, I came forward of the onion and I sliced down, and I still have a little bit of onion intact here. So we do that again. And I'm always shooting a little bit over what I think I need, because I know that that belly of the knife is going to swoop up just a little bit. So then hopefully we made more or less uniform cuts across here. They're roughly the same width apart, and I'm going to do my best to make squares here. Squares, or I guess eventually cubes. And then because the onions are layered, the individual cubes just kind of fall apart. Another chop with the same cut of onion. I'm going to go this way, but I'm not going to go all the way through. And in fact, my knife was sticking a little bit on that last one, so if you have to sharpen in the middle, sharpen in the middle. It's not really a sharpening device, it's a honing rod. And what a honing rod does is it makes your knife true. Sometimes our blade rolls a little bit on us, and this just brings the points of the blade back to center. Same concept, I want to leave a little bit of space over here, and down, and down. And when we're down here, we can chop our root, because this is holding it together now. Rotate that, and to me that's much quicker. It uses a little bit more of the onion. Now this cut, this very sort of professional looking cut, this is great for two things. One, onion rings, because you have the entire onion whole, and two, prepping a lot of onions. Maybe you need to do it in a couple of stages. Say you need to work through 5, 6 onions. Cut the top off. Now that's the only part of the onion that's exposed. You prep all of your onions beforehand, stack them in a nice neat bowl. It looks pretty. Wash your hands, take a break. Cutting a round object on a flat surface is never amazing, so you want to take real good care to have some dry hands, to be steady with your knife, pick your mark, and down. Okay, and you're left with some nice thick onion rings. You can do them a little thinner for burgers or what have you. You can also use this cut to do the dice or the mince. So this can definitely be the precursor to those other two cuts. Another one I didn't show you. Slice. It looks a lot like the half moon, but you want to use it for a different purpose. Remember that now instead of going with the grain, we're going against the grain, so it's going to have a huge onion flavor. I would recommend it for maybe the white onions or the sweet onions. It's all about controlling your ingredients. I prefer this for dicing and this for mincing, and you want to get very close. We're talking like 1/4 inch
which is somewhere around 1/2 centimeter. We're essentially making very skinny half moons, but leaving one end intact so that we can come through and make very tiny minces. Now, before we move on to some of the non-bulbous onions, there's one thing that I didn't show you, and I don't like it because the potential to cut yourself is pretty high. The onion is already in layers, it's going to come off in layers. I really don't think that this is at all necessary, but if you do it, I want you to do it safely. So, some people, in addition to the dice, we'll just go with dice, but this is also applicable in a mince, they'll want to come down here and make a couple of cuts. And I don't like to saw. I like to rock. Rocking to me is not going to get myself cut or as badly cut. Little slice to get in there and then rock. And once I see that coming towards me, I want to get away. It's the difference of, if you mess up, touching yourself with the knife rather than slicing into your fingers. But let's compare that to my other diced onion. You know, maybe it has a few less long pieces, like these kind of end pieces, but they're still there. It's a little bit of a cleaner dice, but not enough to make me want to do it.
Green onions and scallions. These are frequently confused as the same thing, and for all intents and purposes, you can really use them culinarily the same way for the same purposes. There is actually a difference here. The scallion is the complete plant. Notice you have a little bit of bulbing down here, and that's all that it will do. And the green onions are just an immature form of the white onion. It hasn't bulbed yet.
I am going to treat both of these relatively the same. Find the area where it gets a little bit more dense, and that's where I'll make my cut. And these are great as a garnish for just about anything. You want your knife to be very sharp, because otherwise you're just going to end with one continuous green onion that is slightly cut, and it's best to move your knife, to slice with your knife. I see a lot of people doing this with their knife, and that's not slicing. You're smashing your food. This will be a great way to dress up some takeout fried rice, since I'm not making a recipe today. So this will be my lunch. There we go. Just a great way to make anything look a little bit more impressive. Put a little sriracha over the top of that. Just can't get enough of that. And it just adds a freshness that this takeout wouldn't otherwise have on day 2. You can do the same thing with the scallions, only the tops are just a little bit more waxy. They are just a little bit structurally different than the green onions. I should have tasted them before I had a mouthful of sriracha. Alright. And these are very light, very mild, very fresh, and the green onions, they're a little bit more sharp, not much. The other side of the onion, I like to cut these nice and thin. I don't like to give them too much heat. These are great for like finishing a soup within the last maybe 5-10 minutes, and you'll have these beautiful floating green onion slices on top. There is one more application that I really love to use scallions for, because they have this nice big bulb down here and they have sort of a more mild flavor, is that I'm going to do my best to slice this lengthwise. And one of the best things that I do with scallions, rub the whole thing down with some olive oil, maybe some salt and pepper, face down on a grill or even a cast iron pan. And this just gets beautifully caramelized, and it's just such a wonderful garnish for savory dishes.
Chives. Chives are an herb in the onion family. I'd call this one a mild flavor and a mild intensity. It's just really nice raw, really nice sprinkled on top of a dish to give it just a little bit of pop.
Chives, there's really only one way that you want to do them, unless you're putting the whole thing in a stock. I'm going to fold this up a couple times, and I want small cuts. You want to leave them a little bit tubular, let them keep their shape. Just like the green onion tops, this is a great way to freshen up a dish.
Pearl onions. Alright, pearl onions can be very nice, very aesthetically pleasing, but that's kind of it. Being pound for pound the most expensive onion on our list today, this is really for the people who like to have their dinner guests go, "Aww."
These little pearl onions also good for pickling, and they're kind of a pain in the butt to peel. The little culinary trick is to boil them just a minute or two, and if you chop the root, then there's nothing holding it together, and when the outer skin is loose, you can just pop it right out.
If you're feeling educated and or entertained by this video, let me know by hitting that like button. It lets YouTube know that I'm doing a good job, lets my content get in front of the right people.
And this water here, I know that you're going to get sick of me saying it, but this is the beginnings of a great stock. At the very least, grab yourself a packet of ramen and make yourself lunch.
Shallots are kind of the fancy pants onion of the onion world. It has a very delicate, very refined flavor, a little more sweet. But you taste something that was made with a shallot and you taste something that was made with an onion, and you can definitely tell.
Inside of a shallot, there tend to be sort of separated bulbs. And even on the individual bulbs inside of the shallot skin, the outside can get a little dry, so sometimes you just need to take that off, and there's another bulb right there. Since the shallot has less layers, it does sort of become necessary to do that mince that I don't like. So we're just going to rock the knife in a couple of times. And I almost always want to mince shallots. It's such a great flavor, and when you get them small, you get this little pop of shallot here and there. Goes great in a dressing or a pan sauce.
In my chicken breast series, I made a whole bunch of pan sauces, and I was always looking for a shallot, but they were, I guess, out of season. It was literally this time last year, and I have shallots now, so I don't know why that happened. The great shallots shortage of 2021. So what do you think? Did I miss your favorite onion? Did I miss your favorite preparation? Let me know in the comments of this video. Lots of follow-up episodes coming from this onion prep right here. I'm going to do some pickling. I'm going to do some stock making. As those episodes come out, I'll add them to the description of this video. Until then, if you want to know what to do with all these onions, I have a great French onion soup recipe that I'll put right up here.